Okay, so this is going to be a review for PandaMeister, trying out this new format. Let's see how it works out. This will be my feedback and any sort of first impressions I have for this match. So right here, you tried to run in, do quarter circle back four, which is fine-ish, but the geese is already throwing out moves, right? He's got fireballs, he's just darting around, and right here he just hits you out of it, and if he was, I guess, a bit more aware, he could have capitalized. Maybe geese has to commit, I'm not sure. I don't think quarter circle back four was the play there. I think you were fine just dashing in and try to, here you want to try to chip in with quarter circle forward three, right? Like there's no reason to, he's not really sidestepping a bunch up close, right? Look at the distance that you're doing quarter circle back four, right? He's not really sidestepping a bunch. He's sort of staying in place and getting ready to challenge whatever you try and do, right? Let's take a look at that again. He's moving around here, and then as you get closer, right, he dashes into you, right? Because of your forward dash, now you're too close for quarter circle back four to really work, right? Quarter circle back four is a great move, but the distance that you're going in at, you know, you're just making yourself vulnerable. Whereas if you had stayed a little bit behind, maybe like back in this area, you could have probably counter hit out of whatever the slow forward two, I think it is, right, that he's doing. No, forward one. So it's really tough to really gauge these distances, but I would recommend trying to use it more as a keep out tool, right? It's not an approach, it's not something that you want to dash in and do. The move is really good, right? And sometimes there are situations where you can do that, like if your opponent's back is to the wall, but you know, dashing back and forth and then dashing in to do it when your opponent is also advancing, it puts more risk on yourself, right? You're negating the good properties of the move, which is it's really good range and the fact that it's a fucking homing counter hit launcher. Okay, so if you end up, you know, if you watch this and whatever, however else that works out, I need you to run that train of thought by me, right? You did down forward one into quarter circle back four. It was blocked, solid, and then immediately doing quarter circle forward one, I find that really questionable, right? Quarter circle forward one is a great whiff punisher, blah blah blah. It's a good move, but it's like 18 frames, assuming you have a perfect input, and then you factor in online, that's not exactly always going to be the case. I disagree with the decision to do quarter circle forward one there, because you're just asking to get destroyed, right? The high evasion, it does high crush at the start, right? And you do have some high evasion in there, but it's like Geese can just continue his string, he can do any of his mids, and it's you're not really gonna challenge much, right? In a perfect world, right, the fastest your quarter circle forward one is going to come out is 17 frames. Up close, like given that you're right in the Geese's face, there's literally nothing that he's gonna do that's gonna be, you know, lose to it. He's unlikely to do anything that will lose to it. Let's watch that again. So you block it, you go for it, and he did his forward 1+2, and you hit him out of it. That's fine. But if you had done a faster move, you could have likely capitalized on the float, right? +1 is awesome. It means that your turn is still going, but I don't think it's something where you want to suddenly go, all right, quarter circle forward one, here we go, right? I would recommend maybe just even something as simple as like a jab, right? You're trying to take advantage of the speed, but maybe not push your luck, right? Given how aggressive the Geese is, I don't think that you want to do like down forward 2 or anything like that. Maybe back 3, given how close you were, but it's tough to tell. I just I don't think quarter circle forward 1 was really the play. Okay, so you got the geese at the wall, and you immediately go trooper roll over the fireball, and it works out. That's awesome. Again, this is another play that I'm not necessarily sure that I agree with, right? This is like a lot of my personal preference coming out here, but it's like, why not just sidestep? If you sidestep, you can sidestep forward 2-1 and just as likely get a wall splat, right? The whiff recovery on fireballs is pretty significant. You don't want to do it too early, so you don't just dash into the fireball, but a sidestep forward 2-1 could most likely achieve the same results. Just be more cautious in the future, because forward trooper roll is a solid move, and it's really good call out against like wake up kicks and stuff, but the high crush on it, or the low crush on it doesn't activate till much later, right? You have to really time it against the fireball to do well, and maybe your reactions are that sharp, but try to experiment more with just, sidestepping and taking your turn there, and then going to forward 2-1. Okay, so you finish the wall combo and then immediately go for down 1+2, right? Just be more mindful of how low to the ground your opponent is during wall combos, and especially if you already wall splat them, which you already did with wall standing 3, and then the 3-2 eats up your quote-unquote wall combo, right? Like it or not, it's just how the mechanics work. Your wall standing 3-2, the 2 was your wall combo, and then trying to capitalize on it or try to keep pushing your luck with down 1+2, I think is very risky. It just seems to me that you just have a trigger finger on, like, whatever fast move you have going out, and I think you should have instead just, I recognize that the opponent's in a very slow slump, and maybe go for like down 1, or just take a moment to be more aware of your surroundings, see that the geese he's getting ready to tech roll or quick roll out of there, and then go for something like Demo Man if you want to catch him off guard, right? You're more likely to hit the clean hit and get the wall splat into more O-key situations and stuff like that. I like what happened there. I just I'm just gonna assume that was like a missed input or something, but if the off chance that you do have a setup here, yeah, I would just recommend, just do the combo. Okay, and so now that you have the key charge set up, I think it's tricky. Like, I'm not entirely sure where the idea is that's like, all right, key charge into Death Fist, right? I'm gonna assume that it was just a missed input, like that whole situation, so I'm not gonna like try and focus on it too much, but just if your opponent's on the ground, back 4, down back 2, like that usual stuff, or just down 2, right? Like if he's grounded, the grounded version, like versus grounded opponents, down 2, just to get that stomp in. Okay, so right here, this is what I really highly encourage, is that sidestep. You go in, try to take your turn, notice that the distance isn't quite enough, and then so you go for a chip in with the low. Let's see how it works out. And boom. All right, so now right here, you got a little bit of chip damage in, and the geese is already trying to like maybe recuperate that and advance forward, right? And this is where Paul can really shine with a good read on what the geese tries to go for, or a good well-timed jab can further disrupt his offense and then enable you to start your own turn. And I think you want to try and emulate that more. It's the same feeling I got during your Paul mirror match, which I'll also take a look at later on. And it's that you don't need to keep attacking, right? You need to be able to measured offense, right? Try to take your turn, try to take that opportunity to close the distance between you and your opponent. But if you don't have to, you don't need to, right? You have the life lead. The geese does not. And let's be real here, it's online. Like, even if you didn't have the life lead, everybody's super aggressive. They're just going to rush you in anyway. Don't approach your opponent if you don't have to, right? Paul's keep out is going to be a lot stronger than his approach, right? Down forward 2, Corsical back 4, destroys people. But I'm rambling, and that's a tangent, so we'll worry about that later. Okay. In the neutral, don't use Demo Man. Right? One, the geese has enough pushback on his running elbow where it's like the clean hit's never going to happen. But just, like, look, right? You got your chip in, the geese is rushing towards you. If you had a better, if you're going for like a easy, like, or not easy, if you're going for a more high risk read, you could have done down forward 2 to clip him out of his dash in, or just jab, right? Like, his running elbow doesn't really have any high evasion. You would have easily disrupted his turn, and then you would have had your turn to work with. But blocking the elbow and then immediately doing Demo Man and having it blocked is a death sentence, right? If the geese were sharper, he would easily launch you for it. He has enough bar where you going for a mix-up or your infamous low, and instead what ends up happening is suddenly like half your life is gone. Okay, so again, we run into this issue of you don't have the life lead, you're trying to get in on the geese. Understandable, right? You need to approach him. Solid. We're so far so good. What was exactly, like, what was the goal here, right? The geese isn't really throwing out too many moves in this situation at this current time. Right, and doing a random thruster is just asking you to get killed, right? Paul is super safe. All his frame data is amazing on block, right? If you whiff a move, you're just asking to get killed. And if the geese were sharper, you would have died, right? He's got 1 full bar. He's got easy distance for forward 2 or 2 forward 1, whatever the combo is. Easy max mode activation, you're going to the wall, or it's just instant death. Try to play more compact, especially during the approach, right? And especially try to avoid like any of the risky highs. Corsical forward 1 doesn't have that great range, right? Death Fist is your long range with Punisher and stuff like that. I don't think that you want to be approaching with it unless you're a lot more closer, right? Or if you see like if the geese was like, say, throwing out forward 3 and you're like easy with Punish. Corsical forward 1 in that situation, I think, just leaves you too open and too vulnerable, right? The geese is crouching down for whatever reason. He could easily just do full crouch down forward 1. He could do fisherman, whichever, and you'd have had to basically take that because of the whiff recovery. I think you're better off if you're gonna approach with the move, just do Corsical forward 3. There's less risk involved. You're more likely to chip in, right, and get some chip damage going. Try to gain back the lead. It's not as explosive as hitting a Corsical forward 1, but it's way more likely to hit than just throwing out random Corsical forward 1s. Yeah, not much to say there. Really solid play. I think that you're taking too much risk with the dash and Demo Man, but yeah, I mean it worked out. Not much to say there. Really good on the whiff punishes and stuff though. Okay, so Let's try to rewind. Work with me, YouTube. What was... Oh, sorry, I need to watch that again. What exactly was the move here? Okay. So again, this is the situation of, with how close you are to your opponent, you want to avoid quarter circle back 4, right? At this range, at the range that the geese is at, let's try and like set that up one last time. So look at where the geese is and how close he is to you, right? You try to go for a quarter circle back 4, you can see the homing particles, and boom, geese just does forward 3, which is, you know, like Jin's forward 4 or whatever, long ass mid that counter hit launches. I mean, geese is unsafe, but that's a whole different story. There's the concept of big Tekken, small Tekken. Big Tekken, you use your fancy power moves, and you know, counter hit launchers, the whole works, whatever it is, to try and create an opening and capitalize on shit, blah blah blah. You use these big ass powerful moves, forward 1+2, quarter circle back 4, quarter circle back 2, blah 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 blah. And those are, in Tekken 7, that works out really well. Paul's got some of the best, right? Like, holy shit, quarter circle back 4 and up forward or up back 2 counter hit launching is insane. It's hilarious. I love it. But I don't love it at the range that you're trying it at, right? That's the main issue here, is that the ranges you are trying these moves is going to get you killed more often than they'll work out for you, especially in situations where the opponent just has to do like one mid and it's over, right? You want to try and develop your small Tekken, which is at the close range, your faster, more, you know, less risk involved tools, less startup. Let's say something like down 1. Down 1 is, you know, realistically not that much faster than quarter circle back 4. Ideally, quarter circle back 4 is going to be like 19 frames if you have like perfect execution. But down 1 being 14 frames might not seem like a lot, but 4 frames is a huge difference up close, right? Or the classic tried and true, just jab, right? 10 frames, way faster than just the 18 to 19 quarter circle back 4 would usually be. And doing so puts you less at risk from getting counter hit by Geese's long ass leg there, right? Or even just back 1, right? You want to do faster, small, more compact moves that put you at less risk of getting counter hit, of getting whiff punished, etc. And right here is just a classic example of that, is that you have to adjust to the range of your opponent. Paul doesn't necessarily want to be at close range all the time, but when he is, you need to make sure you use your proper tools. Or just 4. Paul has a magic 4, and the 3-2, the easy mode 3-2 combo is pretty consistent on males, right? On females, you want to do like dash back 1 into 3-2, blah 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 blah. But it's that you need to, when you're up close like that, don't use your slow power moves. Don't use big Tekken. Remember that you have faster tools for these types of situations, for these types of up close brawling, that you need to make sure that, like, okay, I need a fast tool to disrupt my opponent's offense and help me get back some momentum or just create some safety. Not, okay, my opponent's right in my face, let me do quarter circle back 4, hoping to hit them out of something, and then you just get counter hit. Oh, he's got combos. Okay, so right here, this is another situation of the Geese tries to sidestep you. He hits you with sidestep 3. He's +4. He sidesteps again, trying to do something, and you try to do down forward 2, which I don't think is the worst idea. I think I'd probably do the same. But let's just see what happens. Yeah, I think you're too late on that. Oh. Demo man's working. Okay, so let's rewind it back right here. See, this is a tough situation to be in. You know, your back is against the wall, the pressure's on. The geese only really needs like one good touch against you, and then you're kind of dead. I mean, it's tough. It's really tough. In situations like this, when you're faced with an opponent who's just kind of like sidestepping, moving around, I would try to just block. I'm gonna be real here. My opinion is just to block and try and look for a stronger opening, right? You want to let the geese move around, right? What you want him to do is commit to a move that you can try and either punish, disrupt, or do something to put yourself in a better situation. The moment you have a bit of breathing room, immediately trying to restart your offense with something like down forward 2, I can understand why you would do that. But again, the problem is that this is not the time or place for that, because it's just too slow, right? You waited too long. The geese had already completed his sidestep, and he's already moving on to his next method of attack. It's a tough situation, but I think you just gotta like try to be more defensive there to look for a better opening. All right, let's skip to the next round. Okay, so Corsical forward 3 is neutral on hit. If you're lucky, +1, right? Right here, I don't necessarily think. I think, you know, again, this is putting a lot of risk on yourself. It's like that distance, a sharp opponent is just gonna whiff punish you, or just easily take their turn by rushing you down. Try to avoid pressing too many buttons after Corsical forward 3. Right? It's not that type of move. It's not plus on hit. Back 4 is your stature kick. You want to use that instead. Corsical forward 3 is your long range, like my opponent's trying to sidestep a bunch, or my opponent's maybe rushing in and they shouldn't. It's like a little mini counter hit combo, blah blah blah. It's your chip in and go back to defense turn or tool, right? It's not an offensive starter. There is no offense that you're really going to start with the tool that's neutral on hit. You're just thankful that you're low that hits from like range 3 and is basically homing. It tracks really well. Same idea. You're just thankful that it's neutral on hit, right? That's it. That's your turn. Trying to press your advantage, especially at that distance, is just asking for trouble. That's how you get clipped by, you know, random ass counter hit launchers that people love throwing out in this game. Okay, so solid combo, good work. Right here, right? You're trying to implement your Oki and geese just spring kicks you. 3-2 back 2, fucking God's gift to wall combos, right? Like, it's consistent, it does everything. It does not necessarily set you up in a favorable Oki situation against an aggressive opponent who likes to press buttons, right? Excuse me. You don't have the frame advantage to start just slamming down back 2. Down back 2 is really slow. It's like 20, 22 frames, somewhere in that ballpark. Against an opponent, especially geese, fucking three stocks, ready to rip. You don't necessarily want to try and implement Oki, right? If you're playing online and your opponent has shown enough aggression where you know that he likes to press buttons, you don't want to try and implement Oki against an opponent like that, right? Just future situations, take a breather, take a step back, and see what the opponent does before you try and implement your offense. Same idea here, right? The geese just spring kicked you when his back was to the wall. It gives you a hint that, okay, if this dude's on the ground, he's gonna try and like hit you back for whatever reason. And rushing in and trying to do Corsical forward 3 is just asking for trouble, right? One spring kick, you knocked him away, you tried to do Corsical forward 3, which I understand, but just dash block, right? Close the distance, but make sure you're blocking to answer whatever the geese is doing. Spring kicks are an easy launch, easy back three. Down forward two sometimes. Frame data is weird depending on like when they get you. So, you know, let's see where it goes. Okay, again, the hitbox on down back 4 does not last very long, right? I get the idea of you want to keep chipping in and like further disrupting your opponent and trying to like unnerve them right here, but you gotta try to be more mindful of your distance, right? It's just kind of like you accept that quarter circle forward 3 hit and you're like sweet chip damage, and then you move back into neutral and immediately just stay on defense. Okay. Alright, wait, let's see how it goes. The geese didn't really capitalize. Okay. What was the line of reasoning there, right? Like, if an opponent is jabbing you, that's fine. There's no reason to start doing back 1-2 or back 1+2, right? It's super slow. It's just stupidly slow. Plenty of opponents can jab, see the jab get absorbed, and just duck. I think it was a very risky play, but maybe it was a missed input, so I won't stay on this too much. Let's just see what happens. Okay. Geese dying with 2 bars. You'll love to see it. So the match is going to continue, and I want to continue this, but this is a new format that I'm trying out, so we'll see how it goes. Yeah, unfortunately, it's only like 2 minutes. So, in summary, right, your neutral, I think, is a bit better than the Paul match, but I think you're still being too aggressive. You're trying to press buttons when it's like sometimes is that you shouldn't. You're trying to press buttons where you shouldn't, but 2, and more importantly, you keep trying to press buttons when you don't need to, right? You don't need to keep pressing your advantage in the situations that you're at. You don't need to keep approaching with core circle forward 1 and all these big moves. You don't need to keep trying to like chip in after core circle forward 3 is hit. You need to be able to disengage, put yourself in a safe range where Paul's keep out can work its magic, or you're able to answer your opponent's rush down, right, with a nice easy jab or other move. You know, trying to keep up your momentum and trying to keep chipping in or trying to keep up offense, Paul's really not that type of character. This is my opinion, and you know, feel free, you do you, but you know, Paul's not a Hwoarang. He's not going to be able to keep an opponent in the blender through standing mix-ups and string mix-ups and whatnot. It's you chip in, you take your chip damage, and you move on with your life, and you keep on the lookout for opportunities like counter hit core circle back 4, or you know, a block punishment opportunity, stuff like that. Trying to keep up your offense on stuff like, you know, core circle forward 3 on hit, a neutral on hit low, and neutral is amazing, right? But the key thing here is that it's not plus, right? And that's like the main issue, is that in the situations that you shouldn't be doing it most of the time because you don't have the advantage, you keep trying to press your offense or press an extra button when you don't need to. And that's mainly neutral. I think you just need to reduce the number of buttons you're pressing, try to play a bit more compact, try to put yourself less at risk, and focus more on taking advantage of openings that the geese gives you, not just let me rush in and try to slam a power move down the guy, right? You want to be like, you put in your offense, you chip in where you can, and immediately move back into this immovable wall. When you have the life lead, an opponent has to approach you. You don't have to rush into them. And nobody wants to approach Paul because he's fucking defensive and evasion bullshit is off the charts, right? Force the opponent into an unfavorable situation which you can take advantage of. And trust me, when that situation is not, Paul keeps trying to like press buttons when he shouldn't. Combos in Oki, they were solid. Your combo game was fine. I think on your Oki, you really need to adjust to your opponent more, right? Try to understand the type of opponent you're facing. If your opponent's very aggressive, like in this Oki situation, he could easily just try and like spring kick you again, right? Just let it go. Let's see what happens. All right, it gets blocked. Down back 2 gets blocked. The opponent is not someone who's going to be pressing buttons where down back 2 at the wall is going to, you know, easily counter hit them, and then you continue your wall combo and continue your Oki. And at the wall, down back 2's greatest strength, the pushback, right? Or maybe not greatest strength, but you get what I mean, is very negated, right? Now you just open yourself up to a punish opportunity, and the Geese has a chance to get momentum back. Yeah, it's really just about, you know, take a step back, see what your opponent does, and then adjust accordingly. Trying to keep up your offense like this is just going to get you killed, right? Paul has a lot of powerful moves, and they have rewarding properties, but just because they have such rewarding properties doesn't mean you keep slamming them out 24/7. Punishment. It's tough. The Geese wasn't doing a lot of punishable stuff. I really liked your adjustments in terms of how to handle fireballs. I think you got better at that. I think just, again, try to keep continuing your sidestep and try to dash block in. Sometimes you just gain a little bit of distance and that's it. And that's fine, right? The idea is you close the gap, and so that the next time if they try to get greedy with the fireballs, you sidestep and then rush in for an easy launch or punish, whichever. And personal opinion stuff, you know, stuff that I like, but your mileage may vary. I think you could utilize Paul's throw game a bit more. He's got a fantastic throw game, and those things are very useful in small Tekken situations, right? Like you got a jab punish, or they blocked your jab, but they're not really trying to like go crazy. Versus passive opponents, the throws are really useful. I like his throw game a lot. You're not necessarily like a full grappler, right? Don't think you'll turn to king with like these crazy Oki situations, but they're useful. They do shitloads of damage, like everything Paul does. Down forward 1+2, twist and shout. That thing does so much damage, it's crazy. Yeah, so try to implement the throws a bit more. It's just another thing to force your opponent to think about, and it gives you something to do at the close range that's faster than core circle back 4. You know, there is the risk of my opponent just duck and launched me for my throw attempt, but the Geese wasn't really doing that. He's always standing, always trying to press a button. So in those really fast situations, like let's say you throw out a 1-jab and the 1-jab hits, but just not like a full 10-frame punish, but now you have a lot of frame advantage to work with. Doing a throw there is fine. The Geese is most likely mashing buttons, and he'll just get thrown out of whatever he's throwing out, right? So, you know, consider using throws more. For lows, you need to use back 4 more, right? I think Geese's 13-frame punish, like crouching punish, is strong, but it's like whatever. Because if you're gonna be trying to like keep up your offense with core circle forward 3, like you're trying to use core circle forward 3 like how people would use a stature kick, right? You're trying to chip in and try to keep your advantage or keep chipping in, and that's not gonna work out in your favor, right? Try to use back 4 a bit more in like these ambiguous situations where you're not sure. The buffed range is great, the counter hit's fantastic, and it's +3, right? If you notice your opponent is very aggressive, back 4 on hit, do some jabs to try and disrupt them, blah blah blah. And yeah, so a bit more back 4 if you need something to try and continue your offense, right? It's a stature kick, that's what those are for. And besides that, yeah, overall, you know, you played well, you got the round, you capitalized where you could, but the problem is that overall you keep putting yourself in risky situations that you don't need to, and just there's no point, there's no reason to, right? Let the opponent come to you, let the opponent do all the aggression, and you just capitalize with your defense and punishment. You just take a step back, try to like slow things down, and just punish him, right? Poke and punish. That's all you need to do. You don't need these crazy 50-50s. You don't need Demo Man. You don't need Death Fist, except for whiff punishes, because you get so much reward off of your stuff. There's no point in, you know, risking a launch punish. Yeah, food for thought. If you have any questions, let me know. Just message in the critique channel. I'll try to respond to it, and we'll see how it goes. I know, unfortunately, I only got to like one match. I'm trying out this new format to see how it works out. Let me know if you like it. If not, I'll go switch back to like the text and try to answer any questions I have. Cool.